Alright, so we wait a few seconds. Yeah, I know, Garion. Okay. Well, it looks like the YouTube is going on, so welcome to Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. We have a guest tonight, and as soon as he appears, I'll let him on. Today is February 3rd, 2018. Tomorrow is the Stupid Bowl, so if you want to be brainwashed and brain dead, go ahead and watch it tomorrow, or you can listen to us tomorrow where we'll have some real information. Ed, take it away.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight and the whole conversation tonight. Once Southern gets here, we're going to be talking about the militia and military, and that goes with the military flags that's in the courtroom. And this is the one thing that people need to comprehend how our courts are run. I've been having many conversations this last week with a lot of people, and it's trying to get them to comprehend how the courts are run compared to the way they think they are. And when you give them information that tells them how the courts are run, then they want to sit there and argue with you, and it's like you can't argue with the truth. That's the frustrating part about all this stuff. Once you start comprehending what the truth is, you can't argue with the truth. And when people start realizing that they can't argue with the truth and how to start working together, how things have to start organizing your paperwork and your instructions in proper order. And that's the one thing that people need to comprehend. It's like when you go into court, like learning what court you're going into. I've preached this out to many people over the months, knowing what court you're going into, and I've had some clarification myself on a few things on it, which I'm been blessed on, and so I'm passing that on to people as well. And it's knowing if you're in this state or if you're in the state of. And that is the major part that when you put your paperwork together too. Say you're a man or woman on the soil of this state, of the state you're in. And people want to get into arguments about the Constitution. There's no Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment. There's no this. There's no that. People, quit listening to other people on these talk shows. Like I said, I was doing a talk show the other night on another group, and this lady kept on going on about they want to be able to make sure that the kids get grand juries, and they're putting a ballot measure in the state of California for grand juries on children deal. And then she's contradicting herself, and she says, well, you should get a grand jury, but then again, you should trust the judges. And then she goes on about judges and attorneys are immune from all prosecution, which is a lie. They are not. If they violate their oath of office, they commit a perjury crime. If the judge sat there and acts like attorney from the bench, he violates his oath of office. And I was sort of disturbed the way this woman kept on going on, preaching about the topic that she was preaching about, because it was like she's telling people that there's basically no hope for them to be able to get any of their cases done. And that's the thing that really disturbed me, because it was like either she's telling the truth in her mind, and believe me, hear me correctly, she's telling the truth in her mind. And that is the one thing that gets to me, that she's going off and talking about attorneys and lawyers. And it was like when I got on the show, I started explaining the law and how they're not immune from prosecution and how they have to go through their rights, and people need to know the rights before they go to these courts. And that is the point. People don't know their rights when they go to these courts. They don't comprehend that the court is run by the Roman Catholic Church, Christianity. It's like I got a cartoon I put out all the time that says the officer's bringing the guy into the judge, and the judge says, don't you know that we and your pastors are the same? And that's true. Your courts are running off of the same structure as the churches. You're going into these churches, and when you go into these churches, these court churches, you're being delegated on religion. People want to write in their paperwork all the time, oh God this, oh God that, and religion quotes and religion. Don't do that in your paperwork. Quoting to the choir at that point. He don't give a shit. He already knows what he's doing. And that's the point that you folks have got to start looking at the points of what's going on. I tried to explain this to several people over the last week, and people want to argue. And that is the frustration right there. People want to argue about stuff they don't even have a concept what they're talking about. They don't do the research. They don't have the knowledge. And that is the saddest part about it. And then I emailed them the knowledge, and some of them are slowly getting it, and some want to argue. And it's like you can't argue with the truth. You just can't argue with the truth. And it's really disturbing when people want to sit there and try to argue on stuff that is disturbing because they're not comprehending it. And I realize they might not comprehend it, but the best movie I could recommend out there for you to comprehend the way the court system works is Interstate 60. I do recommend that movie to everybody to watch that movie. Interstate 60. Please watch it. That's going to open your eyes up to the truth. Once you start comprehending what churches run by and the structure of the actions of how they are implied,
Ed?
that's you're going to win.
Ed?
And until you start putting these things together, it's like I was talking to another lady, and I'm like asking her, what court did you file in? And she's going to tell me the court she filed in. I said, I told you, you have to write, it goes to the same court, but it has to go with the large letter and the small letters, the large letter and the small letters, not all capital. And you're putting all capital, you're going right back into their court system. And then she's going, well, that's not what so-and-so says. Well, okay, if you want to go by so-and-so, then go by so-and-so. Then good luck. Because, I mean, the thing is that we're here, I'm still learning and educating myself by people around me. We're all learning and educating ourselves around this structure. And that is the point. We're all learning about the circumstances. We're tightening the grip on this so people have more and more knowledge of the system. And that is the whole point here, is knowing more and more of the system compared to what people think they think of you. And if you don't comprehend what I'm trying to explain to you, then you must go read the 1871 contract with the Vatican after the Civil War. That is the British contract that we have with the government, the British government. United States, everybody keeps going, United States of America. And they do this on talk shows. I watch people put it in their headlines and stuff, but they don't explain what the United States of America is. That's the sad part right there. United States of America Incorporation, incorporate. You've got to comprehend the incorporation, incorporate. Once you start comprehending that the United States is a private corporation run by the Vatican. Yes, it's true. Your courts are run by religion. And once you start realizing that your courts are run by religion, not by the Constitution, you're going to start winning your court cases. But you have to start realizing these circumstances of what's going on around you in your life. You have to realize the battles and the fights that you are in when you get a traffic ticket or if you're going into your children's structure. And I tell people if you're going to go in, I got a deal that we've got up on the website, and I've been emailing it to many people lately. And I tell people it's very simple. Very simple. File and own your child. You have to own your child. If you don't own your child and you get a birth certificate and you register that child with the state, then that way the state owns your child. It's that simple. When you register your covered wagon, your automobile vehicle, when you register your vehicle, you are giving your rights over to the state corporation. It's that simple. It is very simple because you're giving your rights over to the state. You're giving your property over to the state. And if your children is your property, which it is, it's your bloodline, and I got people going in with me that will say, Ed, there's no such thing as a lawful bloodline. You're crazy. What are you talking about? And it's like there is a thing called a bloodline. When man and woman mate, they create a bloodline. So you can't argue with the bloodline because it's there. It's obvious. It's a fact. When people go and argue, that is the point that people lose. When they want to argue with the circumstances of what's going on, they lose. I mean, the whole thing is simple. When it really comes down to it, it is so. I don't comprehend how people want to argue about the truth. They'll argue with you about the Bible, and I've had many, many people do that. And then they won't argue with me about the Constitution because they don't know the Constitution. That is the point. People don't comprehend what is the circumstances of what is going on. And you try to explain this to people, and sometimes people don't get it. And I comprehend sometimes it takes a little longer for some to get it. And I realize that for some, they might not ever get it. But the structure that comes down to it, when it really comes down to it, is you. You have to know. And that's why as soon as my guest gets here, we'll put him on. And this goes back to the military flag.
Ed, he's been on Ed.
In the courtroom and how your courtrooms are run.
Ed.
Yes.
He's been on. I've been trying to get your attention, but you're good at ranting and raving.
Okay, well, I got a couple more minutes, and then we'll put him on here.
Okay, Southern, we'll get to you in a bit, okay?
Just hang on a couple minutes, Southern. But anyhow, the point is that when you go into these courtrooms, it's knowing what you're going in these courtrooms for, how you're fighting your battles, knowing the circumstances of your paperwork, number one. That is the major part. Knowing your paperwork. And if you don't comprehend your paperwork, bat it around. Don't take one man or woman's suggestion or advice. Take more than one. Be a rational, reasonable adult and make the best decision that's best for you. Anyhow, so seeing that our guest is here, I'm going to turn the floor over to our guest. So it's all yours.
Hey, how you doing, Ed?
Fine. Floor is yours. Go for it.
Okay, we're going to start off with, I run a little group out here called Legal Deception. I've done a lot of research into the laws, especially the laws of war. I'm going to tell you a history of the United States that you will not learn, okay, in just about in any school in this country. Everybody thinks that the first thing that was passed in this country was the Declaration of Independence. That is incorrect. That was passed in 1776. In 1775, our illustrious Continental Congress passed a little thing called the Articles of War. All right, you want to look this up. Right, get your pens and papers out because we give you a lot of stuff to look up so you can verify this for yourself. Like I said, Articles of War, 1775. The next thing that happened, believe it or not, was General George Washington, this can all be looked up out there, created a little thing called the Judge Advocate General's Office, which was the first court of the government. All right? Then came along, like I said, the Declaration of Independence, all right, the Articles of Confederation, 1787. Okay, we signed the Constitution. You need to get into that Constitution very carefully because the courts that were created under the Constitution were inferior courts. All right, I'm going to give you some case law here shortly. You need to go in and read this case law. There's two of them. All right, when they talked about the judiciary power of the United States, they were not talking about, all right, the government. They were talking about the judiciary power of the people. We already had courts here. As a matter of fact, some of them are still here. All right, one of them even has a seal from 1776. It supersedes the Supreme Court and the Constitution. All right, in all federal courts. Now, when we created the Constitution, we did not want a standing army. All right, well, we already had something called the militia. You can look this up in every state constitution. I'd advise you to do it. Find out what the militia is, what it says. Now, when we brought the militia here basically from England, since we didn't want a standing army, we were going to have citizen soldiers. The idea was that everybody would be at peace unless we were at war. Then the citizen soldiers would come forward and fight the war and go home. Good idea. Problem is that the only time we've had a peace initiative in this country, believe it or not, I think it was 1803. All right, Congress passed the Militia Peacetime Act. Since then, we haven't had peace. All you have to do is look up the wars that we've been in. They keep us in a war. All right, the United States is a warring nation. All the acts and everything are created for the war. A lot of people don't realize this, but the UCMJ was not created until 1950. All right, I'm going to give you, hold on one second. I'm going to give you an executive order. All right, the executive order is 10-2-14. All right, February 8, 1951, Henry S. Truman. You need to read that executive order. It has your courts in it. Okay? Now, we have had militia laws all the way through history. One of the first ones created was the calling forth the Militia Act. All right, the establishment of the state militia. You need to look all these stuff up, people. Because let me tell you something. I want to get to something very interesting in just a second. All right? All these militia acts, people tell you don't concern you. They do concern you. All right? All the wars we've been in was to keep one thing active, that militia. All right? In 1903, they created what was called the Dick Act, the Effectiveness of Militia Act. That act, you need to go in there and seriously read that. Because it created two militias. It created a federal uniform militia, and it created the state ununiformed militia. Now, what you've got here is we're going to jump back here a minute, under a man named Henry Knox. He set up the militias in these states so that every militia would act the same, work in the same manner. So if we went to war, all right, there was no conflict between the training. This said, when he did this, this sort of became the law of the land, and it's been there forever. These people who set all this up had good intentions, don't get me wrong, but it didn't work out that way. Now, your governors are all commanders-in-chiefs of your state militia. Anything that governor signs becomes law for you. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's true. When Henry Knox set all this up, You need to go read his writings. It's out there on the internet. You can easily pull it up. How he set up the militias in these states and the military. Now, you people keep asking the question of what kind of courts you're walking into. They're military courts. Right? There hasn't been a civil court reign in this country, at least since the Civil War, and I suspect all the way back to the writing of the Constitution. Because understand something, the first courts in this country were under General George Washington. Now, the Judiciary Act of 1789, you need to seriously go read that, because it set up a different type of court. Again, those are inferior courts under the Constitution. You're going to find them under the under Article Section 3, I think it is, and you're going to find it under Article 1, Section 8. These inferior courts are not courts of the people, they're courts of the military. A case law that you need to read is Ex parte Milligan. All right? It's out there on the internet. You need to definitely sit down and read that, especially the part about the three courts. Because they're telling you right there that all these courts are military. The United States, whenever they created these courts, they had no jurisdiction over the people because we were here first. That case law is Ex parte Milligan. I want to make sure you pull that up and read it. You're going to find something very interesting in there. All right? Because this clearly states in there that you cannot bring a civilian into these military courts as long as the civil courts are open. A couple years ago, somebody I know down here was in some sort of issue with a court. I told the person to claim that they were a civilian. I have a picture of the civilian 99 case number that they got. Once they got that civilian case number, these courts didn't want nothing else to do with them. Now, let me explain something to you. When you go, you need to look up what is on the top of these flags. All right? I can't get it to you, but I will get a document I have to Ed so he can put it out there for everybody to see. But there's four things that are called finals on the top of flags. One is a war eagle. Don't kid yourself, that's just some bird, people. You can go all the way back with that war eagle to the Roman Empire. That's where they got it from. That's a war eagle on top of that flag. That is not an Admiralty Maritime flag in that courtroom. Army Regulations 840-10. That's Army Regulations 840-10. You need to read that very carefully. That doesn't say maritime, people. Everybody wants to run the maritime. This is a maritime court. This is not a maritime court. This is not a prize court on any of this stuff. It's a booty court under laws of war on land. Since 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed a little thing in the law called the Lieber Code. You need to pull the Lieber Code up and read it, especially the part about insurrection. It's going to blow your mind. We've been operating pretty much under that Lieber Code since then. Laws of war on land. A lot of people out here go into these courts and they don't really understand what's going on because it seems not to work out for them. You there, Ed?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
All right, I gave you that thing called the Continental United States. The one with the map on it?
Wait a minute. You said you sent that to me in an email, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I'm still going through my emails. I haven't got to that one yet.
I might have sent it to you on Facebook. All right. You you need to find that and you need to post that out there so as they understand the gravity of what I'm saying. That maps say it all.
Oh, the maps. Yeah, I got the maps. Yeah, so I did send that in, and we're going to be putting that up on the website.
Okay, put that out there on so these people can get their hands on it. There are some things there on that map. Some of them got links, some of them don't. All right, you need to start looking this stuff up and reading it. This is what they're using on you. They're not using the laws you think they're using. They're using this militia law in these states. We have two forms of militia under two different articles. Article 10, all right, is your UCMJ. That's for your full-blown military. That includes your state national guards, all right, your federal military, your Navy, Air Force. All that comes under what's called Article 10 or Title 10. All right. You need to look up 32 Code of Federal Regulations. All right, for the other one, National Defense. This is where you're going to find the acts of the militia, aka us. A lot of people want to run around here and talk about, for example, all right, a lot of people want to run around here and talk about I'm driving in commerce. Commerce has got absolutely nothing to do with driving. You're literally on a giant military base with three armies. The 1st, 5th, and 6th Army cover the entire United States. So the United States, for all practical purposes, is a giant military installation. All right. Under Army Regulations 190-5, that's Army Regulation 190-5. Pull that up and you're going to find out a whole lot about driving. That's where they get the words driving is a privilege from. Anytime you hear somebody tell you that driving is a privilege, all right, go right back to that Army manual, and there it is. Don't kid yourself that this isn't all military. Now, some interesting things about these courts. They all fly military flags. Not so much as the United States flag, but that state flag. Start noticing what's on top of that state flag. If the Army uses four things. It uses the eagle, the president, commander-in-chief. It uses a spear as an army or garrison flag. Understand, army or garrison. All right? It uses the acorn as a marker flag and a ball for advertisement, all right, or recruiting. This can all be looked up on the internet. I'm not pulling this stuff out of my hat. You look at that state flag. If it's got a spear on it, don't kid yourself, people. You're in a military court. All right. I'm gonna let you know a secret. I don't know about all states, but I can guarantee you the people who have done the recon for me have went into their state houses. Florida has a very nice flag flying there, United States flag with the eagle on top, and it's got a very nice Florida flag with a spear on top. That's our House of Representatives. I got the picture. All right, all of them with smiling faces. All right, the Supreme Court of the state of Florida has two nice little flags in it. Except the Florida flag has a spear on top, Army flag. All right, you go into police departments and you start looking at their garrison flags. And all police departments have their own flag, especially sheriffs. Guess what's on them? A spear. Now, the interesting about police departments is when you look at the United States flag, and I can't say all of them because I haven't been there, but a lot of the United States flags in these police departments, all right, have a spear on top. That's a garrison flag. That's not a presidential flag, it's a garrison. All right? Remember, that spear is not your friend. Not in any damn way, shape, or form. As a friend of mine used to joke about, is there to spare you. These people got these courts running. And don't you kid yourself that a lot of people don't know that they're military courts. All right? Now, under that executive order that I gave you a minute ago, all right, executive order 10214, you're going to find a statement in there. Only, everybody keeps saying that these, I've heard the statement, unlicensed practice of law. But let me tell you something, people. It's not unlicensed practice of law. It's unauthorized practice of law. Only a lawyer, a bar attorney, may practice law in a military court. Understand that. I'm giving you how you determine if you're in a military court. I know a lot of people, like I said, they want to go the Admiralty, Maritime route, whatever. I'm telling you how. First thing you need to do is look at the top of that state flag. If it's got a spear on top, you're in a military court. The second way you know you're in a military jurisdiction is if only a bar attorney may practice law in that courtroom. You're in a military jurisdiction. Okay? Now, the third way, if you're being charged in that courtroom, all right, by the state, you're in a military jurisdiction. All right? If we were mano a mano, then you're not in it. But let me tell you something. If you are being charged by the state, I got it in books, I read it, you're in a military jurisdiction. So that's three ways right there. You know the type of court you're in. Now, those of you who think that, oh, well, there's a civil court, you better read the writing on the wall. It's called a civil division. This is not a civil court. It's a civil division of the military court. Again, look at your flags. Okay? This is why every time you turn around, they want to give you a lawyer. Because the bottom line, only lawyers can practice in these military courts. Now, you need to get in, like I said, and read Ex parte Milligan. All right? These courts are operating illegally and they're operating wrongly because we're not supposed to be in there unless we're definitely in the militia. Well, in some states like mine, the Constitution, Article 10, Section 2, Florida Constitution, Article 10, Section 2 clearly tells you that all the inhabitants of this state is in the state militia. If you don't like that, you can go over to Florida Statute 250-2. It tells you the same thing. All inhabitants of the state of Florida are in the militia. Now, to really get your goat, all you people out there who vote, I want you to pull up your voter registration application. I want you to read it. Down there somewhere in the bottom, right where you sign, right? You swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state in which you reside. All right, we're not going to go into this foreign patriot mythology out here about foreign agents, all right, because that doesn't really exist. When you move from one state to another state, they want you to register to vote. The reason they want you to register to vote is because you swear that oath and allegiance to that state, and you relinquish your nationality and allegiance to the other state. Now you're under a different form of commander-in-chief. If, for example, I live in Florida. I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the state of Florida, which means I took an oath to the sovereignty and the authority of the commander-in-chief, which is your governor of the state militia. This can all be looked up. Now, if I move out to Oregon, I re-registered to vote, I've relinquished my nationality to the state of Florida. I relinquished my my sovereignty, or not sovereignty, my mistake, my fiduciary obligation to the state of Florida, and now I have an obligation to the state of Oregon. All right, should there be a war, to fight for them. This is all about having an obligation, okay, allegiance to something. They want you to have allegiance to that state. All right? A lot of people I know are getting out of the voting because of this. If you decide to get out of the voting, let me give you some advice. Don't just tell them you want to not be registered on the voting rolls anymore, because I'm going to tell you right now, that's not the way it is. You better get a certificate from them people verifying the fact that you are not voting. Now, when Henry Knox set all this up, all right, the reason, I hate to do this to you women, the reason that you ladies out there didn't get to vote for so long was the only people they wanted voting was people out here, all right, who were ready to fight for this country. If you weren't in the militia, you couldn't vote. They talk about the roll. The roll that they have is called a voter's roll. All right, from this they draw you out for your jury duty and everything else. But in the old days, it also meant that you were registered in the state militia. All right, which made you obligated to all the militia laws of the state. Pretty good trick if you really want to know the truth about it. Now we're going to get to something that's going to really get you. Civil War never actually ended. Yes, I know everybody thinks that the peace treaty, the thing did between Lee and Grant, Appomattox, Virginia, no, they just a gentleman's agreement, people, to stop fighting. There was never a peace treaty. There was never an armistice signed. Nothing. There was surrender of Lee's army, and that's it. The states never surrendered. Proof of that came July 10th, my mistake, 2015, when a bunch of members of the state of South Carolina, state troopers, a military branch of the government, those are not police, the state troopers. You might want to look them up, the history, especially Florida. Honor Guard came down and ceremoniously removed the last flag of the Civil War. July 10th, 2015, South Carolina, a friend of mine was there. Theoretically, the Civil War is over. Now, anybody here try to buy a Civil War flag lately? They don't sell them anymore. All right? This has all been a military empire. All been done under the military. I'm going to give you two case laws. You need to look them up and read them. Hold on 1 second here. All right. One is called Chisholm versus Georgia. All right. 2 U.S. 2. Dale 419 to 419. 1793. You need to read that very carefully. It's going to give you a lot of information. It's going to section in there. It's going to really blow your mind away.
Do me a favor. Repeat it again for those.
Okay. That's called Chisholm versus Georgia. All right. 1793. It can be pulled up on just a website. Actually, about 5 or 6 websites got them. All right. The next one, I'm going to spell it out for you. Okay. It's called Hurtado. Hurtado versus California. 1884. Okay? Now, those two pieces of case law, you need to study them. You need to read them, and you need to understand what they're saying to you. One involves the sovereignty of the United States, Chisholm versus Georgia. The other one involves the law of the land, and it ain't what you people think it is. Okay? These judges sitting on these benches all know what the law of the land is. It is not the common law. Common law is judge-made rules and decisions. Okay? There are two forms of common law. There is what they call the regular common law. They like to call it common law of the people. And there's military common law. Guess which one they're practicing? It sure as hell ain't the one for the people. Now, the common law that they're using is judge-made stare decisis decisions. Those decisions are not supposed to be made by judges. Before we had a government, before we had judges sitting on the bench, before we had any of this, before we had a constitution, we had courts in this country. These courts were brought here under the Magna Carta. Two things happened. One was grand juries. Right now, I'm gonna throw something out here. There's a book out there called Constitution Annotated. Don't just don't read the Constitution, people. All right, get that book. It's 2,800 pages. It's got, oh man, case law you will not believe coming out of it. Okay? You need to get that book. It's on Congress. You need to read that book. All right? The Constitution is a good article. But the bottom line, you need to get that book and start reading all the interpretations of the Constitution. It's some of that stuff is it's absolutely unbelievable. When Henry Knox, we're going to go back there. When Henry Knox set this whole thing up in 1790, okay, he set up schools, everything is under the military, okay? Everything. When I say everything, people, I am talking everything is ran under the military in this country, okay? There's a place out in Colorado, a building that's got everything you want to know about this country in it. I'm hoping that Ed here will be able to put that map out there so everybody can see it. I didn't make this up. I pulled this right off of the federal regulations to show you just how deep entrenched this is in the military. There is no civil courts. You have to invoke a civil court. The people who are running around out here, and I hate to say this this way, claiming to be, this, that, and the other, and putting all this BS on your paperwork, let me tell you the most important word on any piece of paperwork, and that is civilian. The laws of war have changed. You might want to get into the Avalon Project. Just punch in Laws of War Avalon, and it pulls right up the Avalon Project Laws of War. You need to go in and look them up. You need to start reading them. Okay? A lot of things has happened. A lot of things has changed. All right? Now we're going to get into some real history here. Everybody knows about the Civil War. Civil War never ended. In 1929, a man named Herbert Hoover went into the White House. Herbert Hoover, right after he entered the White House, two interesting things happened. He went over to Europe with about 50 countries, and he negotiated a prisoner of war treaty of 1929. You might want to get that up, and you might want to pull it up, and you might want to read it. This is my personal belief here. I can't prove this. God, I can't find paperwork on it. I wish to God I could. But he negotiated a prisoner of war agreement with about 45, well, almost 50 countries. Right after he came back, within a few months, after that negotiation, the stock market crashed. 1929. Has anybody ever heard the old saying, Hoover days? Hoover sat there and did nothing. The state sat here and did nothing. Right before Herbert Hoover left office, he signed that prisoner of war treaty into law. Next thing you know, in walks Roosevelt. Okay? Roosevelt immediately turns us in to enemies of the state. Everybody knows about the Trading with the Enemy Act. How they took and put the citizens under that Trading with the Enemy Act. They did. Okay? It is my belief that we've been operating under the Lieber Code, under that prisoner of war treaty, since 1933. I am fully familiar with HJR 192 and all the stuff that he did. He could only do that under Articles of War. They call this a state of a national emergency since then. Let me tell you something, people. It ain't no state of national emergency. It's a war. This entire thing, out here, you need to look up the definition between prize courts and booty courts. Bouvier's got excellent definitions. Then you need to go back and read the Lieber Code. Another thing you need to know. 1933, Congress passed an act called the Securities Act. You need to go read the definition of a security. A security is anything you sign that has a debt or obligation to it. All these traffic tickets out here are security instruments. Your mortgages, everything else is security instruments. Under the laws of war, they were allowed the Lieber Code, which is only in the United States. It doesn't apply to foreign countries unless the military so chooses. They're allowed to force indebtedness the people. This is what I think they did in 1933. Now, I'm going to give you guys a lot of information here tonight on a lot of stuff. And if need be, I'll come back on and we'll do this again. Thing you need to look up is military insurance. There's 4 great books out there that can be readily found online. This is your Social Security Act of 1935. You need to look this up. This started during the Civil War. During the Civil War, it only applied to the people who were injured in combat. But right after that, they started giving it to all kinds of people, children and women who lost their husbands and all different kinds of people started getting it. This came out of the Civil War. This is not the poor laws of England. This is military insurance. You need to look that up. Like I said, there's some great books out there on this. This is not something I'm making up that come off the top of my head. Now, when you go into these courts, I'm not talking about criminal acts. I'm talking about traffic, misdemeanors, stuff like this. Understand what's going on in that courtroom. You're supposed to have somebody there handing you a charging instrument. That never happens. It never does. Judge stands there and says the magic words, "Do you understand the charges brought against you?" He's not asking you to stand under him, people. That statement actually means, are you present to answer for the charge? They do the same thing in military courts. same bullshit. Okay? If you say I don't understand because you've not been charged, you've not seen the charging instrument, right? The judge turns around and says, put a warrant out for this man's arrest for failure to appear. I know people that have done it. You're talking to one of them. Okay? What they're doing there is getting you to submit yourself to that military jurisdiction. That's all they're doing. You have to submit yourself to the military jurisdiction. If you go to California, they say the same thing in the courts. If you go to New York, I've talked to people in many, many courts, all right, out there about this. This is how they're getting you to submit to that jurisdiction. They are fully aware of what's going on. Fully aware. Don't kid yourself. Now, we're going to get into something else here. A lot of your cities, our counties, and all this, they're corporations. All right, they're operating, all right, under contract with the Department of Defense or the military. This is a fact of the matter. You can look up. I'm going to give you some Army manuals to look up. All right, one of them is FM 27-10. All right, make sure you read the part about occupied territory. You will find your courts in there. They're non-political military tribunals. Okay, that's Field Manual 27-10. Make sure you look up the part in there about the courts. They're non-political military tribunals. This is why you never see your judges out here, all right, doing any political stuff for anybody. Okay, because they can't. It's illegal. They won't allow it. Now, the second book you need to look up is FM 27-5. You're going to find it right in that book right there that your courts are under the military. You need to read both of those books. I'm not joking you. Those things are got a lot of information in them. It's going to explain a lot about how these courts really operate. Now, whenever you get pulled over for a traffic ticket or anything like that, these police officers out here are writing you a securities instrument. This is not a traffic ticket. You can look this up, like I said, under 1933 Securities Act, 1934 Securities Exchange Act. All right? These cops are writing you a security. Now, I have found a way that works a lot of the times. Okay? It's called Vicodus. Vicodus is signing under duress. All right? Usually it's V.C. in your last name. Real simple. You're under duress because you're facing a man, heavily armed, menacing, with a weapon on his side, telling you to hand over a signature, which is basically signature theft. You might want to look up, I think it's 18 USC 1025. Okay? It talks in there about signature theft. All right? Before the Second World War, signature theft in the United States was a very big crime. A lot of you used to watch the movies out there where the bad man used to put a gun to the rancher's head and get him to sign over his land or his water rights. They always hung that man. So they did away with pretty much all the signature theft in the United States. The only state that still has one, you can look it up, is California. They still have a law on signature theft. Florida, however, and a bunch of other states have a law on what is called identity theft. Okay? You might want to pull up your identity theft laws. Okay? Because that signature is your identity. All right? Now, the police like to tell you, oh, well, that don't apply to me. Well, okay. We're not going to go there right now. But what they're doing is they're forcing indebtedness upon you. All right? They may put down a statute. I have been in many courts in this state, and I talked to many people as far away as California, Washington State, and Alaska, New York. I have never heard a cop, or alleged, I'm going to get to that in a minute, prosecuting attorney or anybody who will ever tell you you broke Florida Statute 590-12 or whatever and read it in the courtroom. According to the law, they are supposed to read you the element of the crime. Okay? They never do this. These are not courts of law. All right? They're courts of indebtedness. They're courts, all right, to collect booty. If you get into the Libra Code, you will find out that under the Libra Code, right, they are allowed to tax the citizens and things like and collect contributions, right, to pay for the government, right, both of the occupier and of the dispelled government. This is what's really going on, and they don't want nobody to ever find this out. Unfortunately, for them, I did. Now, when you go into these courts, all right, the first thing you want to do is find out who that guy is standing beside you. That guy standing beside you, and I'm going to tell you this. I know this because I've called him up and I've actually asked him. The state of Florida prosecutor's office told me point blank, we only prosecute criminal cases. So who is that guy in the fancy suit standing there next to you? There's a very good chance that he is nothing more, absolutely nothing more, than general counsel for either the city in question, the county in question, all right, depending on who the law enforcement agency is, or he is a private attorney, all right, under contract to handle their legal affairs. Okay? Guess what, people? You need to find out who that man is, because he may not be who you think he is. These people have been scamming, conning the American people for a very long time. Very long time. Now, there are ways to deal with some of this stuff. And we're going to get it. I'm going to have to get in that on another show. There are questions to ask. You all need to look up and find out what interrogatories are and discovery. Because you need to start putting this stuff in the courtroom and asking the right questions. You really do. Most people just walk in these courtrooms blind and try to argue a case. You can't do that. But now let me also tell you something else. All right. You need to pull out your not birth certificate, your driver's license. You need to pull out your voter's registration and look at the name on both of them. They're two different names. All right. When you were born, I'm going to tell you how bad the things are in this country right now. When you were born, you were never registered. Your mother filled out this document called Certificate of Live Birth. Right? This here Certificate of Live Birth went through Vital Statistics. By the way, you might want to look up Children's Bureau. You'll find Vital Statistics on the Children's Bureau of the Geneva Convention in 1949 on the prisoners of war. You think I'm kidding you? I'm not. Those of you who think DCF is just DCF, no, it's listed under the Children's Bureau. All right? This is not a joke. Now, when you were born, they took that Certificate of Live Birth and they locked it away in a file. You can find the file number on it or on the birth certificate. They gave you a new name, an all capital name. Some people say it's a nobody's name. Some people say this. But people, I got some news for you. If you don't change that name and correct that status, all right, that name becomes a nom de guerre name. First thing the cop wants to see from you is who you are. He wants that certificate. He wants that driver's license or ID from you. Don't kid yourself for 1 second. This hasn't got a lot to do with this military side of this stuff. And I mean a lot. A lot of people don't want to believe it, but it does. Ed, you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Have you got that map out yet?
Oh, I didn't pull it up right now. I'm fighting my computer. Let me go on here.
Oh,
I did email it, but let me pull it up and get it emailed out.
yeah, because I want these people need to these people need to really see that map and understand what I'm telling them.
Okay.
There are three armies controlling the United States: the First, Fifth, and Sixth, and that's what that map shows. It also shows you the extent of the Army Corps of Engineers over the United States. All right. It has multiple jurisdictions. This covers the entire United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and everything else you want to mention. All right, out here. The people of this country, all right, we were supposed to run our own courts. We were supposed to have common law. Well, I won't use the word common law because I hate that term, because it goes back to the judges. We were supposed to run our own courts.
I gotta agree with you. That's why I try to get people to comprehend. Because when people do common law, it goes back to English law, and the judge have authority.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. No, yes and no. But common law, all right, it's called the some other Claridine. I can't think of the name of it right now. It precedes. Actually, this was before the Magna Carta was passed. All right, and it set up the grand juries. Believe it or not. All right, a judge in a court is only supposed to do one thing: keep the peace in the court. A lot of people don't comprehend this. All right, a grand jury is all powerful. They can subpoena, they can do whatever they damn well please. There are no rules on a grand jury.
That's why they want maritime juries, not grand juries.
Huh?
That's why they want maritime juries, 6 men and women compared to 12 of a grand jury.
No, don't go there with the maritime at all. Listen, no, a grand jury is 23 people. Okay? The state of Florida holds grand juries, but the grand jury in the state of Florida is convened by the chief judge. Who runs the grand jury? The prosecuting attorney. All right? I mean, they got here's what they did. Okay? Being this all went out of the military, all right? What they did, and a lot of people don't know this, look in your state statutes. Florida has a state law in its statute, all right, of the common law of England. Was brought here before 1776, I think it is. Okay? What they did, they took to what is called one of those case laws I gave you is about the law of the land. It tells you that the Magna Carta is the law of the land. All right? Trial by jury. You'll find this in your Constitution in several places. All right? Like I said, you need to pull up that annotated version of the Constitution. Now, what is going on with the grand jury, all right, is in these states, is they convene a grand jury, a state grand jury. Well, wait a minute. State grand jury is not supposed to be convened by a judge. For everything I've ever read, the people themselves can convene a grand jury. All right? And people have tried it. They got arrested because they were simulating a legal process. All right? When they first started this in Florida, I was asked to be on the grand jury. I politely declined and told them why. Exactly what I'm going to tell you. When they brought the grand jury here, the Magna Carta, they put it into the state statutes. The state statutes of Florida are copyrighted.
Right.
So whenever you try to use this, you're simulating a legal process, all right, and they want to put your butt in jail. The same thing, you can look up your state statutes. They're copyrighted. You can look up Muni Code. All right, that's Muni Code. You're going to find out a lot about your cities in there and their copyrights. Everything these people use, go to any law library, pop open a law book. It's copyrighted. Go look up the American Law Institute owns the United States codes. The last time I heard, I got a friend of mine who actually got permission from the American Law Institute to use the United States codes. He's got a written permission slip from us. Now, you need to look up another group of people in your state called the Uniform State Law Commission. Look up their acts. That's a Uniform State Law Commission. You're not going to believe some of the acts these people got. And this is all being used on you in these courts. All right? Every bit of it. It is not law because it's all copyrighted. Now, I've done a lot of extensive research into copyright. There are two copyright theories here. One, they own the copyright, so therefore they own it. It doesn't apply to us. The other one is that they're under the work for hire doctrine. Under the work for hire doctrine, they work for us. So anything they write belongs to the people. Again, doesn't apply. All right? But now you walk in these courtrooms, and I keep saying this, show me a court where you have ever been formally charged with anything. You go in there on a traffic ticket, he was speeding. Now, I've done this in courts. I've asked them to show me the charging instrument. Oh, well, the ticket was a charging instrument. Well, this is not a charging instrument. It's a bill. For all practical purposes, it's nothing more than a bill. They don't want anybody to figure this scam they got running out. Because bottom line, they're making so much money off of this, it's not funny. They're bonding and securitizing this stuff up, all right, these court cases, to the point you wouldn't believe it. Now, like I said, you want to look up by CODIS. You want to start signing any ticket by CODIS because you're under duress. You want to tell the judges you were in the fear of your life. You were unarmed. That's it. The problem, though, like I said, is we're walking into these military courts. These people here, all right, you can look this up in your state law. It is somewhere. I don't know where. But it actually tells you, okay, that the money made from these courts goes back to the cities and the police departments. It's in Florida, it's in the Constitution. Okay? So they have a conflict of interest from going out there and writing tickets. But again, we're going back to Libra Code here, where they're allowed to put force indebtedness upon the people. All right? Unfortunately, they're not applying the later laws that were created, all right, in 1899, and after that, all right, the Geneva Convention, which outlaws all this stuff. So they'll just keep writing on, making the money as much as they can, all right, and buying themselves nice new cars and everything else at the people's expense. Okay, Ed, have I talked enough yet?
No, keep going. I'm right now. I'm going through the deal trying to find this so I can send it over so we get it up on the website right now.
Okay.
So keep going. You got, let's say another 20 minutes before we open it up for people's thoughts.
I'll try.
Well, are you tired at this point? Will you want us to go ahead and open up the floor?
Now, give me a couple more minutes.
All right.
Okay. Like I said, this is all being made under the military. All right? Go into your schools. Okay? Now, look at the flag. All right? Your kids get up every morning and swear allegiance, all right, to the United States flag. Why isn't there, anybody ever asked the question, why isn't there a state flag in those schools? Department of Education is under the United States government, people. It's under the Department of Military. Flat out. I'm not kidding anybody about this. That's why you throw allegiance to that flag. You need to get in there and start studying your copyright laws, especially the Burns Copyright Convention. All right? You need to start reading all this stuff up and become familiar with it, because you can use this stuff in a courtroom. I've actually looked somebody in the face and pulled out the statute and handed it to somebody, and I had highlighted it in yellow years ago and said, hey, you won't mind telling me who owns the copyright to this, will you? The look on people's faces when you do that is something you got to see. It's like, oh, he just didn't say that. Yeah. This stuff is the stuff that they're hiding from us is unreal. You're not being charged with crimes in these courtrooms. You're not being charged with a lot of stuff in this courtroom. You basically have to go in these courtrooms to volunteer into this stuff. All right? And if you don't volunteer into it, they'll drag your butt in there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of this, huh?
I said, oh, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, you better believe it.
I've had it where I had actually run around the state for almost a year because they had warrants out for me when I'm putting things together because they didn't want me to get things out. So I know.
Well, you got to understand something. You can't argue with these people, but you start learning to ask the right questions. Okay, they don't want to answer them.
No, that's the whole point.
mean,
That's the point of even when you want to put your instrument together before you even go to court, file your instrument before you go to court, and most times you won't go to court.
well, yeah, sometimes. But let me tell you something about instruments. Okay, these people they don't look at this stuff. A lot of it, they don't. Okay, they just figure you're going to come into court and fold. That's why you got to go into court and you got to ask the right questions. An example: somebody down here was driving on a suspended license. This is 7-8 months ago. And he's broke. He's got issues. Let's just say it like that. He's like, I need help. Okay, so I gave him Army Regulation 190-5. So he put it in a folder. He went into court. I was there. Right. He looked up the prosecuting attorney or pretender, whoever the guy is with the suit, and he said, why do I need the driver's license anyway? Oh, driving's a privilege. You can always, once you learn how the right questions to ask, you can always get a good response. The guy looks up and he said, could you show me that in the law, sir? He said, I have a problem with privileges. And he said, what do you mean? He said, well, privileges, he said, slaves get privileges. All right? He said, I would like you to show me where it's a privilege to drive. Well, I don't have that right now. The dumb fool picked up Army Regulation 190-5, opened it up, and said, well, I have it right here. Funny thing, it's on the military regulations. Trust me, they wanted him out of that courtroom very, very fast. All right? Especially when he started asking all kinds of questions about why, about us living and driving on military installations, all right, in the state of Florida. Yeah, they didn't want nothing to do with that whole scenario. They really didn't. They dismissed the case, dismissing the case, and basically throwing him out of the courthouse. They haven't bothered him since either. The cops in the area know that he's got an expired tag, but again, they don't want to go there because that 190-5 says a whole lot of very bad stuff they don't want exposed. Now, like I said, you need to get into these field manuals and start reading them. You're going to find a whole lot of stuff in there that you're not going to like, but it exposes what's going on out here in these courts. Okay, Ed, I'm going to call it for the night. Let's open it up for some questions.
No problem. Let's open it up for questions for people got questions, and then we'll go from there. And then right now I'm working on sending some of this stuff right now so we get some of this stuff up on our sites so people have got the information on these things as well that are listening to this, They could always email me to get it, and they could always go to new.org trackers, and it will be on the site.
Q&A session has started.
With Q&A session started, that means in order to get into the lineup, you need to hit star 61, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm going to unmute Southern here. Southern, you're fully unmuted. So, anybody's got any questions, jump in, star 61.
Well, people can't be that bashful. I guess they might.
No, I'm
Go
here.
ahead.
Yeah. These regulations, because I've been looking up all this stuff about discoveries, requests for admissions, requests for productions, and derogatory. The thing is that also, does this stuff also work in family courts?
Say what now?
Yeah, speak a little closer to the phone, please.
Yeah, what I'm wondering is, does this stuff also work in family courts?
Yeah. So, wait a minute. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a secret about family court. Okay? Let me tell you a secret. You need to look up 8 USC 1401. Okay? You're going to find something in there. Let's stop right here. Okay? You need to look up 8 USC 1401. Okay? Now, when you were born, let me give you a little history lesson here on naturalization. And I'm not going to get into a tongue wrestle match with anybody here about it. I've got the information, and that's it. Hold on. So, Immigration Act of 1790. You need to pull that up. It's out there on the internet. You need to read it. All right? When we came here to the United States, all right, when they passed that Immigration Act, everybody had to go down, all right, and do their little immigration into the United States. Everybody. It didn't matter if you were born here, if you came here, it didn't matter. Okay? That law prevailed for many years. You want to know why they're trying to, right now, you've heard them talking on in Congress and other places for many years now about changing the immigration naturalization law. I'm going to show you why. It's called 8 USC 1401. Okay? Now, if you look at 1401, it has A, B, C, D, E, F, I, G, and H. All right? Everybody wants to look at person who's born inside the United States is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There's a catch to this. All right? Now, B, C, D, E, all right, G, and H, okay, are all persons born in foreign countries. There's only 2 in here, born in the United States. All right? One is B, that is Indians, Eskimos, Aleutians, and other Aboriginal tribes. Okay? And F. All right? F, persons of unknown parentage found in the United States while under the age of 5 until shown prior to his attaining the age of 21 not to have been born in the United States. Now, I'm going to give you some case law on this. All right? It is called Elk versus Walkins. That's Elk versus Wilkins. All right? 1894. That is about allegiance. If, all right, you cannot have allegiance to any other person but the United States. We're going to get into that in a minute. Another piece of case law you want to look up. Okay? I'm going to give you two of them. One is United States versus Wong Kim Ark, 1898. That's United States versus Wong Kim Ark. All right? The other one, believe it or not, is Dred Scott versus Sanford. Now, Taney, in the Dred Scott case, everybody thinks that he said black people cannot be made citizens of the United States. He was correct in what he said, but people never read the whole thing. What Taney said was people born in the United States, and he wasn't talking just blacks, could not automatically be made citizens of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Congress has no authority to make you a citizen of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So all you guys with your 14th Amendment citizenship, it doesn't work. Congress only has authority to write the rules of citizenship and naturalization. They cannot force you to be a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, what they wrote was you had to go down and voluntarily go through the immigration process. That's the Immigration Act of 1790. All right? This pretty much stayed the way it was, okay, with a few little, the Chinese couldn't come in here. But bottom line, if you didn't go through the immigration process, you were not a citizen of the United States. Now, in 1940, they changed that. And this assumes you to be a citizen of the United States if you're found on the land. All right? Birth certificates before 51. From 1910 when they created them to 1951 had three things on them that you don't see anymore. Three words: legitimate, illegitimate, and foundling.
Yep.
I know this for a fact because I have birth certificates prior to 1950 in my possession. And that is on there, and you're supposed to check off the box, along with the fact that what you got on there is an informant. The informant is informing on the fact that the child is abandoned and who the parents are. Now, family court doesn't tell you this. All right? The second a child is born, they automatically take the mommy and daddy Social Security numbers, and they send them to guess who? Child support. Money is coming into these states, okay, for these children. The money is going into state coffers.
Yep.
I will get Ed my the collected undistributed child support docs that I got. I got 10 years of those accounts that I looked up. That money is sitting in state coffers. All right, and if you try to go get it, they're going to look you right in the face like they've done people I know and say, prove that that's who you are and that we owe you the money. And you can't do it. All right? Now, Child Support Family Court, DCF, like I said, both of those operate under the military. Both of them operate under the Social Security Act. All right? And that's under the military. Don't kid yourself. I know a lot of people say, ma'am, it's under the Queen of England. Yeah, well, that's this for you. The first Social Security Act that was actually passed was not the Social Security, but it was Social Insurance was under the Civil War. By the way, I think I already said that. Now, as far as here's the catch with family courts. You have to claim your child. If you don't claim that child is a ward of the state. I don't give a damn what these courts tell you. That kid is a ward of the state. I know somebody right now who's going through this because they came and took his kids. I'm trying to help him. But you got to claim that kid. All right?
That's property.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to give you a law to look up. This is Florida. All right, I'm going to go. Oh, where is it? All right. I'll give you the actual immigration law on this. Look up 8 USC 1409. Okay? You got to read that. This tells you how to legitimize a child. Okay? If you're a father, you got to do that. Otherwise, he follows the mother's bloodline, okay? And the father's out of the picture, which is what they designed this whole system to do. Back during the Civil War, all right, they created a law about abandoned property. This law has never been repealed and is being used today, all right, to assume that you abandoned your house, you abandoned your car, you abandoned this, you abandoned your children. Okay? This law can be looked up also in the Uniform State Law Commission Acts about abandoned property. This is what these courts are using on you people. I hate to say this, but this is what they're using. And they've had 100-something years of this stuff. An example, all right, the Uniform Traffic Act. All right, you can look that up. Okay? It's all copyrighted. But you must get out there, and you must, all right, acknowledge that child if you're a father. As a matter of fact, I put some stuff out there here a while back that I found on Fine Law, where it actually states that a father who has not established his paternity of that child has no rights to that child whatsoever.
Right.
All right. Now, I also want to get you guys to read this. I want you to pull up 5 USC 552A. All right? Because I'm going to show you something.
Read that again.
5 USC 552A.
Just want to clarify that because I brought that up before.
Huh?
I said I'm just clarifying that because I have brought that up before.
Well, 552A.
Hmm?
All right. Wait a minute. Let me. No, that's not the one. Where? Oh. On me, I gotta go all the way down to the second document.
While I'm doing that, I got a case that I did in Florida where the guy didn't file his paperwork before his child was born. His child was born. They took his child from the hospital because he refused to sign the Social Security number and the birth certificate and all that, and he didn't file the paperwork beforehand in the hospital. So they actually took his kid from the parent, the woman, and he got the kid back about 7.5 hours later with a letter from the state attorney general from Florida that nobody should touch that child because he was claiming his bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point. If you don't claim that child right off the bat or within 30 days, that's where they go with the 30-day deal, claiming that property.
That's right.
Abandoned property. How cops do it, everybody does it.
Mm-hmm. You're 100% correct.
And that's
Now,
under abandoned property law.
Yep, it's all on abandoned property law. A lot of people aren't getting this in family court. Okay? Well, all they want is someone to be responsible for that child.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it. Anybody but the state, so they can keep that money, okay, and they don't have to pull that money out of their pocket. This is why whenever a woman goes on welfare, okay, they go after the father to pay back the money. All right. This is all about the same bull, okay? And that's all it is. Making somebody responsible. It's always the father, all right? The Social Security Act of 1935 was changed in 1939,
Yep.
okay? And people need to understand what happened in that. But under 5, we'll get to that in just a second. Under 5 USC 552A, go down and read Section 4, okay? Everybody wants to talk about person. This has got nothing to do with persons, people. It's got about the word individual.
Mhm.
Section 2. Individual means a citizen of the United States or an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. Look in front of the word person on every law, you're going to see the word individual. Now,
Repeat that again for people. I want them to comprehend this because I've been saying that.
all right, this 5 USC 552A, records maintained on individuals. The term individual means a citizen of the United States or an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. Now, you go down to 4. I'm going to read this to you. 4. The term record means any item collected or grouping of information about an individual that is maintained by an agency, and we're going to get to agency law in a minute, all right, including but not limited to his education, financial transactions, medical history, all right, criminal and employment history, and that contains his name or the identifying number, symbol, or other identifying particular assigned to the individual in such as a finger or voice print or a photograph. They're telling you right there that all capital name, all right, on that birth certificate, they assigned that to you. That is their name. Now, let me tell you a secret. Anything that name lands on becomes theirs. All your court paperwork is theirs. All right? The birth certificate, theirs. Car, theirs.
Mhm.
All right? You never got a name. Never got a name. Okay? We're going to get to that. All right? 5. The term system of record means a group of any records under the control of any agency from which information is retrieved by the name of the individual or by some identifying number, symbol, or other identifying particular assigned to the individual. They are telling you right there, they gave you the name and voice print and everything else. It is their name. We're now telling people to correct their status on this and go and get their name. Go and have a name change. Some states are fighting us, some are not. But the bottom line is that all capital name, you need to get a name change from the all capital name down to the upper and lowercase name. And you need to get it decreed to you that that is your name. Then you own the things that they claim to own. They pulled the greatest fraud in history. Okay? When they did this. Because what they did, they literally took your name on your certificate of live birth and they put it in a file. And then they turned around and issued you another name. Now, I've gotten into the manuals from Vital Statistics. And it states in there that if the original is ever found, the record will be corrected. The only problem is you can't find the original. You will never be given the original. You'll be given a copy, and you will never be given the whole copy. Because I got went round and round with Vital Statistics. All right, they told me that that little piece that was cut off down at the bottom doesn't mean anything. I said, lady, I got a copy of a Florida birth certificate. All right, it's not a birth certificate, but a certificate of live birth. I said, that damn thing is 20 inches long. I said, you sent me 9. Where's the other 11 inches? And she hung up on me. I said, I'm looking at one. Right now, 20 inches long. I said, I want to know where the rest of it is. They won't give it to you. And yeah, people, it's got your footprints on it. Yep. It's got your footprints. But if you fathers out there, let me tell you something right now. Okay? You need to seriously acknowledge, put an ad in the newspaper. All right, this child was born. He is my son. He is my heir. All right, put an affidavit together, put it before the court. All right, you need to acknowledge these kids. All right, this is about allegiance. All right, let me explain allegiance to you. All right, born and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If that child has a father, he is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Ron Kim Ark, that case law clearly tells you this. All right. If you got a father, that child is under your authority, not the government's.
You mentioned to look up something that ended in 1409. What was that?
What's that? See what now?
You mentioned to look up something, a document.
8 U.S.C. 1409.
Okay, just a minute. Say it slowly so I can write it down.
8 U.S.C. 1409.
USC 1409. And what does that do?
You need to go and read that. It tells you how to acknowledge your children.
Very good.
Now,
thank you, sir.
Okay. Now I'm gonna blow some people away with what I'm gonna say here. Hold on one second.
And I'll send him my affidavit I wrote on the whole thing on that one too, because I know who that is. So I'll send you the structure I did on the. I think I sent your brother already. I'll get.
Now, one thing you want to get in and read that's very interesting. Constitution annotated. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. It starts on page 301. It's called Naturalization of Citizenship. It's about 15 pages long. It has case law. It has explanations of naturalization of citizenship. All right. Now, I'm going to give you why, all right, Congress, all right, cannot make you a citizen of the United States. You ready for this one? All right, this is in Dred Scott. All right. Nature and scope of Congress's power of naturalization has been defined by the Supreme Court. Ready for this? As the act of adopting a foreigner and clothing him with the privileges of a native citizen. There's only one problem. There ain't no native citizens. Congress only has the power, to write the rules of regulation of immigration. They don't have the authority to make you a citizen of this country.
Mm-hmm.
The 14th Amendment guys all get me every time. I love them. I have such fun with them, but they won't listen. Now I'm going to give you two of the other things you want to read up. Okay?
Go for it.
Ready? Let me find it. It's a 25-page document, man. All right, ready? 7 FAM 1118 foundlings.
Say that again for
7 FAM 1118 foundlings. Okay? That's out of the Social Security manual. You're going to love that.
Downing, Downing.
Foundlings, yes. Foundlings.
Oh, foundling.
Mm-hmm. There's two little paragraphs there, A and B, and you're just going to rock your world with that one. Now, I'm going to let you know a secret. You guys want to know what the birth certificate is? How many people want to know?
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to tell you. Look up 8 USC 1183. 8 USC 1183. Whenever you guys, when you put your kids in school, what do you got to do?
Register them.
Huh?
Register them.
No. You got to give them. You got to give them the birth certificate.
Oh,
What is a birth certificate? Huh?
I said they're actually doing that one now, but they didn't previous.
Well, they've been doing it. Oh, they've been doing it a long time. A long time. All right. Admission of certain aliens on giving bond. All right. An alien, inadmissible under paragraph 4 of section. Listen to this. Inadmissible of section paragraph 4, section 222A may. By the way, may, if otherwise admissible, be admitted, all right, in the discretion of the Attorney General, subject to the affidavit of support requirements. Listen what it says, all right, and attributes of spouse's income resources under section 213A. 1. Upon giving a suitable or proper bond, all right, or undertaking approved by the Attorney General in such an amount and containing such conditions as may be prescribed to the United States and to all state territories, counties, cities, municipalities, districts thereof, holding the United States and all states, territories, counties, cities, harmless, and thereof, districts thereof, harmless against such alien becoming a public charge. Guess what? That's what that birth certificate's all about, right there. I'm going to finish reading it. Such bond or undertaking shall terminate upon the permanent departure from the United States, all right, the naturalization or the death. Listen, the naturalization or the death, all right, of such alien. Any sum of money held to secure performance thereof, except to the amount forfeited for violation of the terms thereof, shall be returned to the person to whom furnished or to his legal representative. Suit may be brought thereon in the name and of the proper law enforcement agencies for use of the United States or any other state, territory, district, county, city, municipality in which the alien becomes a public charge, irrespectively of whether a demand for payment for public expenses has been made. So, if you become a public charge, you're arrested, all right, DCF takes your kid, these are all, anytime that the state, you become a charge of the state in any way, shape, or form, this is a bond they can cash in, all right? They can cash in on this, all right? There's two things you need to read. 8 USC 1183, that's 8 USC 1183, all right, and 8 USC 1363. That's where they talk again about the immigration bond, okay? That's 8 USC 1363. All of this is under the Immigration Naturalization Act 1940. And that's 56, excuse me. Any questions on that?
Now, I've got that one pretty much down. That's what I've been. That's why I appreciate you going over things what I've been preaching about too, because and the main part is owning your bloodline. That's where people don't get this, and I always love when people say, "Why should I have to do this? Why should I have to do this?" And it's like, well, either you want your child or you don't. Quit whining about take it.
Well, hold on a second. It's not really about the bloodline anymore. It is about the fact that they created in 1940, in order to create citizens of the United States. All right, they created a foundling child. All right, if you do not claim that child, you have no rights to that. There is no bloodline there to the father. Okay, therefore there is no inheritance to the father. And what they did, this is again my opinion, in order to strip us of our rights, all right, to the Constitution and other things, all right, they took away the inheritance part of this. These lawyers are crafty people. But, again, once you have to acknowledge that child, you have to do it. Now, I want to tell you a secret. When you acknowledge that child properly, it's an adoption. All right? I know two people who have done it. All right? Now, when that happens, they seal the file on that child. All right? And they have nothing else to do with it as a child. The catch is getting that file sealed. Now, I have spoken to somebody, and I'm going to give you some advice. As long as that file is open, that child is adoptable by anyone, all right, who wants that child, friend or foe. Understand what I just said. As long as that file is open, that child can be adopted. Don't kid yourself, I don't know what I'm talking about. Now, if that file is closed, only a judge's order can open that file. And that undoes everything once it's open. But once we got to find a way, and I'm working my little diligent butt off, to get these files closed. Because only by closing those files will they leave you alone. You got to do it, people. If you got to go down and adopt your own children, huh?
Southern, my main question here is this: if you claim your child in an affidavit, is that good enough?
Right now, I would say no. You have to literally go down and tell the judge, I want to adopt my children. I know some people who tried to file an affidavit like that up here in northern Florida. A gentleman on his two children. The response by the police who showed up was not very favorable, and that's how I'll put it. There was 8 of them that came in there to get him. All right? Now, then a couple of days later, the U.S. Marshal showed up at his house. This is how bad they don't want you doing this. And they came there, basically, and told him that he was filing sovereign citizen paperwork. Okay? Now, when they got there,
What does that mean? Sovereign citizen paperwork.
Well, they want anybody who does. They're trying to freak everybody out with that word sovereign citizen. All right? But if you read if you read Chisholm versus Georgia, you're going to get why they're scared of the sovereign citizen. Chisholm versus Georgia was a Supreme Court decision, all right, that basically says the people of this country are sovereign. All right, we existed prior to the Constitution. We created the Constitution, all right, and the Constitution's first 3 words are "we the people." Let me ask you all a question. I'll get off subject here for just a second. Did anybody pay attention to Trump's speech at the United Nations? Hello?
Yeah, no, I didn't watch it. Hey,
Apparently not.
Yeah. You need to go listen to Trump's speech the first 10 minutes. That's all you need to hear. I'm going to give you some advice. Download that and save that. Okay? Because I've argued this out with several people already. Oh, he's not saying that. He didn't mean that. All right? I'm not one of them sovereign citizens. Yeah, well, you better go listen to the President of the United States speech. I think it's, I forget where it's at. But it's only, I think it's in the first 10 minutes. He starts talking about the Constitution and we the people. And right after that, he makes a statement, all right, to the United Nations. All right? This is the President of the United States saying this. This ain't me. Okay? But to answer your question about that, what happened is two very bullying U.S. Marshals showed up, all right, and started threatening him about filing sovereign citizen paperwork into the court, and he could go to jail. And he looked at him and he didn't say nothing. Then when they got through talking, he said, "You guys got a clue what the hell I did?" And they said, "Well, no, it was sovereign citizen paperwork." He said, "Come on inside." He took him inside and showed him the documents he tried to file. Both of them looked at him and said, what is this? You're just saying these are your kids. He said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "You want to tell me why I'm being threatened?" He said, "You're telling me these are not my children?" And he went into it with them. Literally tore into their butts. Okay? He said, "These people do not want these fathers to acknowledge these kids." And both them guys had kids. Both of them. He explained the whole thing to them. They were not happy campers. And these were U.S. Marshals, people. See, anything that we do, they got everybody so scared of the word sovereign citizen. Okay? Excuse me. I got a guy here who is in a court case. All right, and they came in there with that bullshit. He's one of the dangerous sovereign citizens. And he's like, "I don't know how to respond to this." I said, "It's real simple. Tell them to prove you're not." And he went, "What?" I said, "Yeah." So I sent him a little piece of paper. It's about 2 pages long, asking them to verify certain things. We're going to see how that works out. I am pretty damn sure they're not going to like it. Because it asks them, since I'm not a sovereign citizen, am I a slave, a prisoner of war? All right? And it goes into a whole bunch of this stuff. All right? And it has that person to declare, all right, his authority. I'm his master. All right? I'm his commanding officer. All this different stuff. But bottom line, you have to make this declaration. And it was sent to these people. And these lawyers, and we're going to see how they respond to this whole document. Okay? The last people that I used this on, shot their mouth off in a courtroom, and it was handed to them, and the guy asked the judge to have him answer the document. And basically, the guy looked up at him and said, "I'm not answering this." And he said, "I'd like this guy thrown in jail if he answers the document." He shot his mouth off now. Let him answer it. It did happen. The judge took one look at the document. I thought we thought he was going to go into cardiac arrest. All right, but that's my story. Any questions?
Any feedback at this point?
Huh?
I was just asking any feedback. I think people are slowly getting more and more of this put together compared to what we've been led to believe.
Well, we don't. Let me explain something to you. There is a change underway. It was started under the Obama administration. All right? When that flag came, it is my belief that Y'all have probably heard of something called Jade Helm. Okay, it was very well posted out there on the internet. Everybody got real scared, but nobody really saw anything about it. Well, let me let you know a secret. I believe Jade Helm, all right, basically was Obama came out here or with the military and said, okay, you guys don't want to surrender? Let's play war for real. I'll send the military out there. I enforce compliance. Because right after that Jade Helm incident, that flag in South Carolina came down. And I don't know if you saw the video of that or not, but a friend of mine actually flew across the United States when he heard about it. He threw some clothes into a thing. He flew across the United States, and his wife thought he lost his mind just to see a flag come down. And video recorded the whole thing, and he said there was a lot of military officers there, a lot. Okay, including 4-star generals. And after the flag came down, they went and got a hotel room. And his wife was like, "You're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy," until he set her down. He's ex-military, okay? He set her down and explained what that flag meant. She needed a couple of drinks to get over that one. That flag coming down meant. That's why you can't buy a rebel flag anymore. They're outlawed. Now, how far is this going to go? I don't know. I'm hearing all kinds of rumors. One is that we're going back from a military to a civil government. My evidence of this at this point is in some schools, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. I have definitely confirmed. Okay, so anybody on this call that has kids in school, go to your school, all right, and tell me what's happening with the flags in them schools. This is all about flags, people. A friend of mine in Broward County noticed that they took the Eagles off the flags in her kid's school. A lady in Georgia told me the same thing. Now, another lady in South Carolina, they went home one Friday. They came back Monday morning, and she always walks. She's got a, how old is it? It's like 6 years old. She's walking her daughter to class, right? Okay. The kids are all laughing, and she looked at the teacher and said, "What's going on? What's so funny?" She said, "I don't know." And all of a sudden, her daughter started laughing too. But kids notice things, believe it or not. And they turned around and said, "What are you all laughing at?" They pointed up to a flag and said, "Somebody stole the bird." Hello? You get it? Now, the teacher went down to the principal's office, and as she was looking, somebody stole all the birds all the way down to the principal's office. And the principal told her they weren't stolen, they were removed. So, for those of you who don't understand that now turns out into a civil flag. All right? It's no longer under Field Manual Army Regulations 840-10. It's now under Title 4. See, all these people, all these years, been telling you to get that gold fringe off my flag. Well, it's not your flag. It's a military flag created by Dwight D. Eisenhower on executive order as Commander-in-Chief of the military in 1959.
Executive Order 10834.
Yes, sir. Now, only he can change that flag as Commander-in-Chief of the military. So it's not your flag, it's his flag. Okay? And if people would really read Title 4, there's only certain days you're allowed as a civilian to fly that flag. Okay? But one of the places under Army Regulations 840-10, all right, that it states that flag is flown, okay? Guess where, people? Military courtrooms. All right? The gold fringe flag is flown indoor at commanding officers, blah, 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 in military courts. And any questions?
Well, come on. Anybody got any thoughts to continue on here? I guess we've overwhelmed them.
I was being taped.
Oh yeah, it's being lived on YouTube right now.
Okay, on YouTube. Oh
Yeah.
God.
Oh yeah, this is live on YouTube beside our structure.
I have.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Under the UCMJ, with them flying the military or having that flag with the gold fringes on it, are they supposed to have the UCMJ in court?
No, listen carefully. UCMJ came in 1950. We had military courts before that under the Articles of War, all right, and the Lieber Code. Okay? UCMJ only applies, all right, to uniformed military. When I say uniformed military, I'm talking Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and guess what, people? State National Guard. When in service to the United States government. Otherwise, that's under Title 10, United States Code. Otherwise, you're under what's called Title 32, all right, which is 32 Code of Federal Regulations, National Defense. Excuse me, I made a mistake there. Your state National Guard is under Title 10, but the rest of us ain't.
Yeah.
We're under Title 32, National Defense. You need to look up 32, National Defense, CFR. You ain't gonna. It's a long read. You're gonna find so much in there. Driving, your city. I mean, you're gonna find so much in there. You ain't gonna believe it, people. You're not gonna believe it. I got it broken down into 3 sections just so as I could transmit it over the internet. Because it's such a big file, but it's huge. But they got it nicely hidden in there.
Why is that not surprising?
Man, let me tell you something. I am, you know, these guys out here driving under commerce, guys, with a look. I'm not driving in commerce tags out here. You've seen them, right?
Oh yeah.
You know how many of them I know got arrested? and they're arguing in court that they're not driving the commerce, and the judge like, yeah, and they're too stupid to get it. I mean, I don't understand some of them. I know 3 or 4 that were thrown in jail because the judges looked at them and said, you know, if you're this dumb, you need to be taught a lesson. All right. One guy down here, they gave him 6 months in jail for driving without a tag, and he's wanting to appeal this to a federal court. I'm like, dude, you're gonna lose. This got nothing to do with commerce. Nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with commerce. But you can't tell them anything. Okay? But you start asking the right questions about the military side of this, oh man, they do not want to discuss this crap with you at all. At all. I mean, at all. Any questions? Hello?
We've been
Go ahead.
we've been on for almost full 2 hours, so I'm thinking it might be a good time to wrap up and let everybody contemplate on all this information. And I would really, if Ed is amenable to it, really appreciate having you on again in the future, son.
Well, we plan on doing that. We might have them on next Saturday again. I'll do my deal tomorrow, and we'll probably end up doing this again Saturday. We'll walk through it again next Saturday. I think might be plausible if he's got the time. I think we might as well just do that again next Saturday.
Yeah.
Because I'll just change what I was going to do Saturday, and we'll just do it this way.
Mm-hmm. But one thing you guys need to do is that Executive Order 1021-4, February 8, 1951, that created the UCMJ, you definitely need to get in there and read this thing, because I'm going to tell you something about it. Hold on a second. I'm going to read something to you from the Fifth Amendment. I want you to pay real close attention to what I'm going to tell you. Hold on a minute. Let me find this. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to tell you all something. You need to read your state constitutions, because you're going to find that little things that they snuck in there about the military. Okay? If you think I'm kidding you, I'm not. Everybody thinks they know what all this says. Well, they don't. All right? An example is what I'm going to give you right now. Our forefathers were very smart people. All right, Fifth Amendment. Listen carefully. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in land or naval forces or in the militia. Or when in actual service in time of public danger, of war or public danger. There you are, people. There's where they get the authority. There's where they get the authority for the military courts. Now, I want to bring something else up to you. Has anybody ever read it's one you have, it's Article 1, Section 8. You need to go in there and look that up. Hold on 1 second. I want you to know this. You need to go into Article 1, Section 8, okay, of the Constitution. You need to read this very carefully, okay? I want you to go down through, there's about 18 different things on there. I want you to read them. Look it up on your own time. How many of those things have to do with war? Okay? You want to know where they get their power over you? Nowhere in that document, Article 1, Section 8, does it say, we shall have power over the people. We shall have authority over the people. That does not exist in that document. All right? It does talk about your inferior courts. Okay? It tells you in there, Congress has a right to establish inferior courts. Okay? Now, you need to definitely read, okay, everything, all right, about piracy on the high seas, to declare war, grant letters of mark of reprisal, I make rules for captures on land and water, right? But no appropriation for 2 years, all right, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules governing and regulating the land and naval forces, all right, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection and repel invasion. So who the hell do you think the police are? To provide an arming and discipline the militia. Oops, did I just say the word discipline?
Yep. What it means, too, it's supposed to be a well-regulated, disciplined militia, is what it states. Did we lose you? What happened to him?
He did get kicked off somehow.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
I think we should wrap up. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, well, let's give him a minute to
Oh,
call back.
he's back.
Let's give him a minute to see if he calls back in. I haven't got a message from him yet.
Welcome back, Southern. Come on in.
Hello.
There
I
you are.
guess somebody didn't like what I was just saying.
We know
But
that.
you need to do this. All right, listen carefully.
Let's
To
start.
provide for harmony, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing each such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, all right, reserving to the states respectfully the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline, all right, prescribed by Congress. There's where they're getting you people right there. 18, to make all laws, all right, which shall be necessary, proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested in this Constitution and the government of the United States and the Department, all right, or officers thereof. There's where they're getting their power over you. Unless anybody can show me otherwise, because I can't find it.
Gotcha. So anyhow, we're going to wrap it up now, and we'll look forward to it. Why don't we just say next Saturday? Would that work with you?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, and then don't worry, you'll be hearing from me in the next couple of days anyways. So
maybe these people don't.
Well, bring out your if you want to bring out your other information, you can bring it out. If you don't want to, you're fine. People can contact me, and we'll figure out a best way. And if you don't want to put your stuff out over the line here, that's up to you.
Well, like I said, I can be found on David Randall on Facebook, and I run the site called Legal Deception.
And I know you're going to get some friend requests probably tonight.
Maybe one.
Okay. So, but that's the point. You've heard from him, and then we appreciate your time, sir. And we would like to say thank you again for that. We look forward to next Saturday with you on this information, because it is very educational for a lot of people. And the one thing I was really glad that you really brought out and stressed on the ownership of the child. That's the one thing people do not realize, that if you don't claim your child, you don't own your child. You have no liability to that child. That's why the state claims it.
Well, no, like I said, the problem with the child thing is, all right, we're all abandoned property.
Yeah.
And since 1940, yes, you're a citizen of the United States, presumed, but you're abandoned property. I took this, and I want to say this before we go, to an immigration attorney, and I asked him about this. He wouldn't talk to me. He contacted about 15 other attorneys. No one could believe what they were reading. No one. These guys only deal with outside immigration. Once they realize, well, wait a minute, a kid born on the land? This is why, you got an informant on that certificate of live birth. Because there's no parents. The parents assume to abandon the kid and run off. And that's it. Okay, Ed, we will call it a night, buddy.
All right, we'll wrap it up. I appreciate your time very much, and I would like to say good night, folks. And the one thing is, remember the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, blesses us, and if it wasn't for the Creator, we wouldn't be here. And so always always remember to do your research. Don't take somebody's point of view, research it, and look what's going on around you, what's working in these structures of the court system. Look what's being presented. Learn how to do the circumstances to protect your assets, your ass. So with that, Great Spirit bless you.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Good night, everybody.
thank you for listening to the disclaimers by Ed Johnston. Today is February 3rd, 2018. We had the special guest speaker, Southern. We want to thank him for coming here and hope he comes again in the future. And for all you others, like I said, the Stupid Bowl's tomorrow. If you're going to watch it, enjoy being brainwashed.